YouTube? Mr. Football here today. And today I'm here to talk about a topic that I'm really getting a lot of questions on, it feels like, this time of the year. But I wanted to talk about, should you change your football position or should you switch football positions? And here recently I got a lot of these comments coming in from different subscribers and so forth that were saying they played this position, they wanted to switch to this one, or that they were asking my opinion of whether they should play one position over the other. A lot of times I get these questions and they're usually tagged along with like their height and weight and their age, all right, which is great and all. But I want to talk about just this whole topic all in itself. You know, should you want to change your football position? And I think we should discuss, like, you know, how you might even go about doing that, because ultimately it may not be your decision in some regards, depending on where you play and how you try out. So that's kind of the idea of it. But right now, it always seems like this time of year, people kind of get around, you know, especially in the time of spring football, they think that they need to change positions. And I'm going to give you some cases where you may think you may need to rethink what you originally have thought. But you need to kind of decide in your mind, you know, why are you wanting to switch positions? You know, there's a couple of reasons. You could not enjoy playing the position that you're in, so you ask, you know, person in charge, the coach in charge, you know, to change your position in some way. There's different ways to go about doing that, and I'm going to give you that from the coach's standpoint. Those of you that should know me, you know, like, you know, I'm a football coach, and I don't know if a lot of people realize that on my channel, but I don't play anymore. I've not played in over 9 years, and so, like, yeah, but I've been coaching and this thing for, you know, over 6 years now, and so we've changed players before. Like, we've had to make adjustments, and those are kind of things that you have to consider. But, you know, what you guys send to me, you know, and ask, you know, let me just give you like an example. Someone wanted to know if they, you know, they were playing this position, they were this height, this weight, and they were playing defensive end, they wanted to switch to tight end. And they wanted to ask my opinion whether they think they should do that. And I said, well, you know, I basically said, well, why not both? Why can't you do both? You know, obviously some teams may have more players where you can't play on both sides of the ball. So that's the only thing I know. You know, I've coached, you know, single platoon football teams where a lot of people play both ways. Some people just play one way. You know, and especially in really bigger areas with a lot more people on the team, you may only focus in one area. But those are all things to consider. But, you know, there's possible reasons why, you know, you may want to change position. Like I said, you may not like the position that you're in. You know, and you want to change. But I think you have to really be realistic about your chances at that position, okay? I mean, if we have a guy that wants to, you know, and he's been a defensive lineman all of his life, and then all of a sudden wants to play linebacker, well, there's got to be a need for us to move that person to linebacker, okay? Because otherwise, if he's been a starter on defense, on the defensive line, like, I mean, that's where he needs to be. There are certain cases that do happen where you need to change players. You know, I can attest to back, I guess it's been about 5 years ago, we had an offensive lineman type that really probably was an offensive lineman in some regards. He was more of a tight end type, but he was a heck of a good blocker, and we needed him on the offensive line. But when we changed to a little bit different scheme and got a couple of younger players in there that we knew that were going to be starters for the next few years, we went ahead and pulled the trigger and made him essentially an H-back. And so there are cases where, you know, linemen can go up to, you know, a position up. Very rarely do you see, you know, people being converted in other ways. There's so many other, like, there's been guys that had, you know, originally possibly been in the backfield at one point in their life, and then, you know, slowly transitioned to a lineman. And I don't think, and the crazy thing is like, people just associate linemen to be slow, fat, and stuff like that, and that's not the case. I mean, offensive linemen are athletic, and so it's not a demotion, if your coach moves you to offensive line or defensive line for that matter. It's not a demotion by any means. Like, it is about getting the best players on the field. They're not doing that to hurt your feelings. They're doing it for the betterment of the team. And I think that's what you guys have to realize sometimes. As coaches, we're put in this position to win, and the pressure's on to make sure that all of your personnel fit where they need to go. And ultimately, it's on that person's. It's on their head whether they're right or wrong. So, as players, we have to understand, like, this is how it needs to be. It's for the betterment of the program, you know. And with the thing about changing positions or specializing in one, I wouldn't specialize in a position. Like, if you play, you know, quarterback and let's say free safety. Let's just say you either want to play either of those positions. Well, why not specialize in both? You know, why not be really good at quarterback, really good at free safety? Because there's obviously a reason why you're there at both. So there's all kinds of different scenarios that you can get into and say, well, you know, I don't like this position for this cause. And so there's all kinds of things that, you know, players get into with it. And as coaches, we have to sit down each year and decide, you know, are there any changes that need to be made where this person maybe needs to convert to this position? And that does happen. And it happens from time to time based on, you know, what we have certain years. I know one year we pretty much we were kind of short on defensive linemen. We originally were going to be an even front, and then we made the decision to just go with, we needed an extra, like, we didn't feel confident in those, in that fourth one, and so we ended up just staying with three, and we didn't really change our defensive alignment at all. I mean, we were 4-2-5, and then went to a 3-4. And that was back, I guess, about 5 or 6 years ago. But it was more of a personnel thing where we didn't want to convert any more players down, and we were in this really weird situation where we didn't have a whole lot of linemen, and we were extremely low on linemen to the point where when one got hurt, we had to move. A linebacker got hurt. We had to move someone else in, and it just kind of spiraled into that kind of thing. So from that, I think it's important in all players to consider, you know, why you might switch your position. And it really depends. Like, if your team does tryouts every year and say, all right, well, if you want to try out for running back, here you go. And then they're going to give you that opportunity. You know, back when I first started coaching, and I remember one of my very first practices coaching a youth team, I basically kind of put the kids into groups, kind of placed them. I basically did a line group and a skill group, kind of took them all through each set of positions. I did, you know, stuff with quarterbacks, where I, you know, tried a bunch out at quarterback, tried a bunch out at running back, found the ones that stuck, you know, and just kind of went from there. Went to finding receivers, finding tight ends, and so on, and until you kind of build the cohesiveness of what your team is. You probably know, kind of, if you've been playing football for a long time, you know your position, you know you feel comfortable in that position. But think about it this way: what if you had to change positions? You know, what if your coach brought you in and asked you to change positions? How would you take that? And so I think it's something to consider. You know, when you go from, you know, each year to year, you never know that, like, one year you might be playing right tackle and all of a sudden you're playing center. And so there's all kinds of, you know, things that can come up. So don't just put yourself in a vacuum and say that I'm just going to play this position and so on, because it really limits you as a player. Okay, and I really think it's important to branch out. Okay, play as much as you can, play as many positions as you possibly can, and get good at those. Okay, because you never know when a situation may come up where, you know, you need to move to that position, and you may be asked to. So it's important not to just put yourself in a vacuum and, you know, make sure that you can play whatever you're asked to play, and do it to the best of your ability. So hope that helped in any way. When I get questions about, you know, size, and, you know, you guys asking, should I play this position? That's not on me. You know, that's my opinion, and your coach may have a different opinion on you, because your height and weight really don't mean a whole lot, to be honest with you. You know, now, you know, 6'5", you know, 260, means something. Okay. Now there are certain sizes. It just depends at each level because in some ways guys really aren't start. They really don't stop growing until you're like 16, 17, 18 years old. Like you can continue to grow. So like just saying that your height and your weight matter, like that really doesn't matter to me. Like I mean, we have guys that weigh 175 pounds and play offensive line. I mean, it's just like it's just kind of part of it. Okay, so I mean, it's not really whether your size matters. Okay, size is not going to matter in the game of high school football. It's all about the skill, and ultimately, it's not about X's and O's, but it's about the Jimmies and Joes that play those positions that are really going to make that happen. And that's a very old football saying if you've ever heard that before. So, hope this helped in some way. I kind of ranted about some different things, but like when I get the comments on my channel, like I play this position and I want to switch this one. This is my height, weight. I'm this old. Like, it really didn't matter. Like I can't see you. Like that's you on paper. You in person is different. And so like if you're a straight baller and and can catch everything in sight, I don't know. Like I mean but you have to look at it from the standpoint of different things. You have to look at it from strength, speed, and so many other factors that go into what position you might play. So kind of a long-winded video, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out Instagram for all updates on the channel. Check out our private Discord page if you got more questions. You want to ask me something down there. We can talk about different things, different topics on there. How are you guys doing with not having football right now? Question of the day. Obviously, spring sports and spring football are not going to be happening this season, with a lot of things being canceled because of what. But I just kind of know what what are you guys doing? I'd just like to hear what you guys have to say. So if you guys have anything else, you can leave them down in the comments section below, and we'll see you guys next time. Mr. Football out.